There is perhaps no pitcher as dominant as Jacob DeGrom. With the ability to throw 100+ mph fastballs and a slider that makes batters look silly, it's no wonder he has put together some of the most impressive single-season performances in MLB history, and has led him to numerous accolades such as 2 Cy Young Awards, Rookie of the Year, and an ERA title. But due to several major injuries, his availability has been limited, and if he's not careful, it could ruin his chances of making the Hall of Fame. But he wasn't always the injury-prone player he is labeled as today. Entering the 2014 season, DeGrom was ranked 14th in the Mets farm. Instead, the star pitching prospect was Noah Syndergaard, who had already established the ability to reach triple digits before reaching the majors. But to begin the year, DeGrom started to turn heads with his stellar performances at AAA. Then, after Dylan G went down injured in mid-May, he finally got his chance at the big league level, with his first start coming against their crosstown rivals, the New York Yankees. At the time, the Yankees weren't performing all too well, having missed the playoffs entirely in 2013, just the second time since 1995, and they had gotten off to a mediocre start at just 19-19. DeGrom was catching them at the right time, and after 8 pitches to leadoff man Brett Gardner, he didn't quit and fired a 94-mile-per-hour fastball at the bottom of the zone, which induced an easy fly ball for right fielder Curtis Granderson to grab. By the end of the first, he had already thrown 21 pitches due to a few long at-bats. But through the next few innings, he was able to settle in and cruise throughout most parts of the game, including 4 1-2-3 innings. It wasn't until the 7th before he ran into trouble after allowing a 1-out walk and RBI double to Alfonso Soriano for the game's opening run. But instead of manager Terry Collins reaching into his bullpen with a runner on third in a tight game, he allowed him to finish the inning, showing the immense confidence he already garnered despite being in his debut. This was it. Runner on third, now down by a run. All he needed was one final out to escape the jam. But the batter Younghervis Solarte wasn't going down easy. He took a first pitch ball after DeGrom's offering missed way outside the zone, putting him in the driver's seat. For his career, after starting an at-bat 1-0, he posted a .282 average with an .863 OPS, compared to starting off 0-1 where he hit just .227 with a .601 OPS. However, following Solarte's hard-hit ball, it went right at second baseman Daniel Murphy to end the inning and strand Soriano at third base. This was his final frame of the night, giving him an impressive line for his debut with 7 innings pitched, 6 base runners allowed, 1 earned run, and 6 strikeouts, putting the Mets in prime position to compete for a win, yet they couldn't get the job done and put up a donut in support of his stellar outing, which, unbeknownst to him, would foreshadow the lackluster run support he would receive throughout his Mets tenure. But I digress, because his next few starts didn't follow suit. After a blow-up against the St. Louis Cardinals, in which he allowed 6 runs on 12 hits, his ERA ballooned to .439. So in the hotel room that night, he was contemplating what went wrong. It was then after watching the film he realized his mechanics were wayward. So he got to work with pitching coach Dan Warthen to keep his torso from over-rotating too early in his delivery. This proved to be the reason behind his blow-ups in his previous few outings, as he got back to form after this discovery, tossing 7 scoreless innings against the Miami Marlins. But what's most impressive about this outing was his delivery. It was far more fluid and allowed him to throw his fastball on average 2 miles an hour faster than just his previous start. This change catapulted him into success. From June 21st onward, his 1.99 ERA ranked 6th lowest. He even became a strikeout pitcher, striking out batters at the 5th best rate. This was unheard of for him, as he posted just 7.4 strikeouts per 9 in the minor leagues. It was clear he transformed into a completely different pitcher during the second half of the season, and gave him great totals for the year with a 2.69 ERA and the Rookie of the Year award. Over the next few years, DeGrom continued to be the ace of the Mets pitching staff, with his name also ascending into the conversation of one of the best pitchers in the league. He featured in 1 All-Star game during this time, pitching a clean inning of work by striking out Stephen Vogt, Jason Kipnis, and Jose Iglesias swinging. He also received Cy Young votes twice, finishing 7th in 2015 and 8th in 2017. For many players, they would be content with performances like this, but not for DeGrom. It was always his dream to thrive in Major League Baseball, and he would do whatever it would take to achieve this. After not getting drafted out of high school, he went to college to pursue playing as an infielder. But towards the end of his collegiate career, he was pushed into the rotation where the Mets took a chance on him. As you would expect from a guy who didn't throw regularly until his early 20s, he had a lot of catching up to do, so he spent long nights working vigorously to reach the major league level, something he was able to achieve, and throughout the first 4 seasons of his career, there weren't many better. Still, it was time to elevate his game even further, which meant he needed to take any edge he could get. That's why during the first few weeks of the 2017 offseason, he decided to cut his luscious locks, something he stated could add 2 miles an hour to his fastball. So whether it be this or just sheer improvement year over year, 2018 was by far his best season of his career. Not only that, it was one of the greatest pitching seasons in recent memory. But first, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Under 510 Clothing. Right now, if you click the link in the description, you get a $10 coupon to their website, where they have a wide selection of high-quality garments. And what's special about them is how they cater to all the shorter guys out there. For example, while most men's clothing brands only go down to 30-inch inseams, Under 510 goes to 26. And with the cooler months fast approaching, they just restocked their Super Stretch Performance pants, which look great and will help keep you warm throughout the winter. It's the perfect time to upgrade your wardrobe with Under 510, so make sure to click the link in the description to get $10 off your first order with them. Throughout the year, his fastball blazed past batters, his slider induced ridiculous swings, and his changeup fooled everyone. It was the perfect combination and allowed him to be lights out in almost all of his starts. In fact, of the 32 he made that year, he only allowed more than 3 runs once. A 6-inning 4-run affair against the Marlins in the opening month. Then, following a 1-inning start he made against the Phillies on May 13th, he set the MLB record for most consecutive quality starts at 24. For reference, a quality start is an outing in which the pitcher tosses at least 6 innings with no more than 3 earned runs allowed, meaning he was giving his team a great opportunity to win each time he took the mound. But due to his league worst run support, the Mets went just 14-18 in his starts and gave him a 10-9 record. Since the mound was lowered in 1969, his 10 wins are by far the lowest among starters with an ERA below 2. Roger Clemens comes second with 13 in 2005, then Louis Tiant and Gary Nolan had 15 in 1972. It's safe to say if he had been on a team with a juggernaut offense like the Red Sox or Yankees, he would have fared a lot better in this statistic. As a matter of fact, if the Mets scored 5 runs in each game he started, he would have won 30. So despite only finishing 50th in baseball in terms of wins, everyone was raving about his historic campaign. Yet there were still people out there who didn't believe he should win the Cy Young.
Because I'm big on wins. Win the game, Frank. Win the game. I don't care what the ERA is.
When it came time for awards, DeGrom comfortably won Cy Young, garnering 29 of 30 first-place votes, and even a first-place vote for MVP where he finished 5th. It was a season that propelled his name into the upper echelon of starting pitchers in baseball history. Since 1969, his 1.70 ERA is the 3rd lowest in a single season among pitchers who started as many games as him, with the other 2 being Zack Greinke in 2015 and Dwight Gooden all the way back in 1985. So it's no surprise come spring training of the following year, he was rewarded with a lucrative 5-year, $137.5 million payday, keeping him in New York until at least his 34th birthday. This was seen as a very team-friendly contract, as Zack Greinke had just signed for over $200 million for 6 years, and other pitchers such as Chris Sale received similar contracts despite being nowhere in the realm of DeGrom. However, this wasn't a problem for him, as his main desire was to win a World Series in New York, something he was trying his absolute best to do. In his second start of the year against the Marlins, he threw 7 scoreless innings while striking out a career-high 14 batters. He also took no chances on the offensive side and decided to give himself all the run support he needed with a solo homer in the 3rd. This outing helped him start the year on the right track, but he truly hit his stride as the season drew to a close. To finish out the campaign, he threw no more or less than 7 innings pitched in his last 8 starts and 13 of his final 15, helping him finish the year with a more than respectable 2.43 ERA. In comparison, this was 0.73 points higher than the previous year, but everything else was roughly the same, except his home run total, but you can blame MLB and the juice ball for that one. In the end, he was able to improve upon his win-loss record, going from 10-9 to 11-8. Somehow, the Mets' historic run support in 2018 wasn't enough and carried over their lackluster support in 2019. For reference, 3 times he allowed no runs and didn't get a win. 4 times he allowed 1 run and came away with a no decision, and in 8 starts he allowed 2 runs but only went 3-2 in those games. Wins are an arbitrary metric and haven't been utilized to truly value a player's contributions in quite some time. Well, except this guy. I don't think he was all too happy when DeGrom became just the 11th player to ever win Cy Young back-to-back, but he had his sights set on even more history in 2020. The 2020 campaign was strange to say the least. Doubleheaders were now 7 innings each, extra innings started with a man on second, and the season was only 60 games, meaning one poor stretch would kill any player's chances of finishing with good numbers. But DeGrom didn't let this unique MLB season stop him from continuing to evolve his game. At 32 years old, he experienced his biggest increase in fastball velocity, averaging 98.6 miles an hour compared to 96.9 from the year prior, which was already up tremendously from 2016 when it sat at 94. To add that much speed on his fastball at his age is unheard of. From his rookie season till 2019, he threw just 2 fastballs over 100 miles an hour, which both came around the midway point in 2019. In 2020 alone, that number stood at 33, with one even reaching 102.2 miles an hour. This newfound speed on his fastball helped contribute to yet another solid campaign, with a 2.38 ERA and 13.8 strikeouts per 9, by far the highest of his career thus far. He did, however, miss out on becoming just the 3rd player to win 3 straight Cy Young awards after finishing 3rd place to Trevor Bauer and Yu Darvish. But there's a great chance that if the season had been 162 games, he would have won his 3rd straight. After all, the epidemic plagued season made it so MLB teams played more local games, meaning he had to face primarily East Coast teams and their star-studded offenses. But as he entered the offseason, he was able to reflect on the year he just had and be happy with the improvements he made in his arsenal. Now, all that was left to do was continue to hone in on the improvements he made and see how his stuff would fare over a full 162 game calendar. In his first start of the 2021 season, he threw 24 straight fastballs, 18 of which clocked in at 99 miles per hour or greater. And for the rest of the afternoon, he continued to pepper the Phillies batters with a heavy dose of 4-seamers and a few sliders sprinkled in. However, after going 6 scoreless innings, he was still unable to get the win. But he was able to get back into the win column just a few weeks later with perhaps his best start of his career, by tossing a complete game shutout against the Washington Nationals, which included 15 strikeouts. This game was the final in a run of 3 in which he recorded at least 14, joining Pedro Martinez in 1999 and Garrett Cole in 2019 as the only 3 players to achieve this feat. And he didn't stop there. Across 7 starts from May 25th till June 26th, he threw 31 scoreless innings. This helped him finish his 12th start with a season ERA of just .50. Since earned runs were first tracked in 1913, this figure ranks as the lowest through a player's first 12 starts of a season. However, his numbers did take a toll over the next few games after he only went a combined 20 innings, allowing 7 earned runs. But regardless, he was on track to have one of the greatest pitching seasons in MLB history. However, this is where his story takes a turn for the worst. On June 16th, after going 3 innings, he was taken out of the game due to forearm tightness. He would make his next few scheduled starts before an MRI would reveal inflammation around his UCL, to which he attributes to awkwardly laying in an MRI tube for an hour. But regardless of how he suffered the injury, his year was over and we were robbed of one of the greatest pitching seasons in MLB history. Before he was shut down, his 3.73 ERA plus is one of the craziest video game numbers you will ever see on a stats page. Keep in mind, 100 is league average, meaning he was 273% better than the average pitcher in baseball. You'd have to go all the way back to Satchel Paige in 1944, Slim Jones in 1933, and Bullet Rogan in 1925 to find anyone above 300. Thinking back to some of the craziest seasons in MLB history, like Pedro Martinez in 2000, Greg Maddux in 94 and 95, and Bob Gibson in 68, none of these guys eclipsed 300. Pedro came close, but DeGrom's figure still stands 82 points higher. Now, of course, he didn't finish a full season, and a game of what ifs is very difficult. We could sit here all day and say, what if Alex Rodriguez's trade to the Red Sox actually went through? What if Ken Griffey Jr. didn't deal with so many injuries? And what if the ball never went under Bill Buckner's glove in the 1986 World Series? The truth is, it's impossible to say what his numbers would have been if not for his season's abrupt end. That's why heading into 2022, all eyes were on him and whether or not he could continue the incredible success he found. Additionally, after the season, he was set to opt out of his contract and test free agency, which meant he needed another solid campaign in order to justify another huge payday. But in spring training, an MRI revealed he had suffered a stress fracture in his right scapula, forcing him to stop baseball activities immediately and wait for it to heal. Then, after months of strenuous rehab and a few minor league starts, he was back on the mound for the first time in over a year on August 2nd, where he went on to pitch like his vintage self with a 1.66 ERA across his first 7 starts. But in his final few outings, he got touched up quite a bit, allowing a home run in each of his final 4, including 3 in his season finale. Nonetheless, he positioned himself as the premier pitcher available in the free agent market, with a few teams eyeing his services. 2 of them being the Dodgers and Braves. Both enjoyed 100-win seasons, finished 1-2 respectively in ERA in the National League, and had payrolls that were looking to increase. However, the Texas Rangers emerged as the perfect fit. In the previous offseason, they spent $500 million to secure their middle infield by signing Corey Seager and Marcus Semien long-term, a decision which helped their offense mightily, going from 28th in runs per game in 2021 all the way to 12th in 2022. Pitching-wise though, they still needed all the help in the world. In 2021, their ERA ranked 23rd, and in 2022, it wasn't much better, finishing just 1 place higher. It was clear this team still had improvements to be made on the run prevention side, so why not go for the guy who is far and away the best pitcher over the previous 5 years? It made too much sense. Which is why it took nobody by surprise when the two sides came together to sign a 5-year, $185 million pact in early December. Now, at the time, a short-term contract with a higher annual value was perceived as the deal he would sign. So from the outside looking in, it was easy to be weary of a 5-year deal for a guy who had dealt with many injuries over the previous few years. However, for all those surrounding Rangers baseball, there was nothing but excitement. His arrival was a revelation for the franchise, as they finally had a bona fide ace that could lead them to victory each night. In fact, they won each of his first 6 starts, because unlike the Mets, they didn't fall asleep every time he took the mound. At this point, everything was looking up for the Rangers. After not making the playoffs since 2016, they finished April first place in the AL West at 17-11. But as with most, when things start to go your way, it all comes crashing down. On June 6, 2023, it was announced DeGrom would undergo Tommy John surgery and keep him out for the rest of the year, including much of 2024. And when talking to reporters regarding this decision, it was hard for him to hold back tears.
Yeah, as I said, it stinks. You want to be out there. It's just not ideal, but at least this is clear. I think we know, get it fixed and work towards coming back.
Somehow, the Rangers still managed to win the World Series without their ace. So regardless of his lack of contribution down the stretch, he was happy to be a part of bringing home the first championship in franchise history.
We got everything going right, and then, playoff time, everybody put it together, and just happy to be a part of it.
DeGrom has and always will be a competitor. It's what got him to this point in his career. So while he was happy about their World Series victory, it's hard to believe there wasn't a part of him which was also disappointed he couldn't contribute more. But with 4 years remaining on his deal and the likelihood of the Rangers competing for postseason baseball in 2024, he got to work in hopes he could continue to make his mark in Texas the following year. In April, he began throwing from 90 feet. In June, he resumed throwing from the mound, and in August, he was finally ready to begin his rehab outings. Now, with the added grit of overcoming such a huge setback, he didn't hold back, eclipsing 100 miles per hour with his fastball. Then, in mid-September, he was finally ready to make his return to big league action. At the time, the Rangers had experienced injuries to the majority of their key players, which meant he would not be helping aid a second consecutive playoff berth. Nevertheless, he was over the moon to be back competing.
Like I said, you spend that much time away from the game. You go through that whole process of building back up, and to get back on a major league mound was very nice.
He only made 2 more starts before the season's end, totaling 10 2/3 innings pitched, allowing just 2 earned runs while striking out 14. Once again proving that despite the many stops and starts he has faced since 2020, whenever he's on the mound, he is still the most unhittable pitcher in the game. The only problem, he is running out of time. 2025 will be his age 37 season and 3rd of his 5-year deal. It's increasingly difficult to bank on 20+ starts. So what exactly does this mean for his Hall of Fame chances? Well, to fully understand this, we must first look at what is working for him, and there are plenty of reasons to get excited. For starters, his career 156 ERA plus is tied for the 3rd best among pitchers with as many innings as him, showing that inning for inning, he's up there as one of the most dominant starters to ever grace the game. Furthermore, his strikeout to walk ratio is the highest in MLB history at 5.41. It's not as prestigious as having the most strikeouts or lowest ERA. Nonetheless, it's an achievement that will also help his chances. But perhaps the biggest argument when advocating for his name in Cooperstown has to be his 2 years between 2018 and 2019. During these 2 seasons, he etched his name into baseball immortality with an unfathomable 170 ERA in 32 starts, while also leading the league in strikeouts and winning 2 Cy Young awards. These are just a few of countless accolades he has been awarded over the years. But now it's time to go over what is working against him, and the obvious answer here is longevity. It's what has kept guys like Johan Santana, Tim Lincecum, and many others out, while Mike Mussina is, and soon to be, CC Sabathia. Not to say these 2 players don't deserve to be in, but it's a fair point to say that neither of these guys had peaks as high as some who didn't make it. With this in mind, DeGrom's 1,367 innings pitched would rank as the 82nd out of 89 pitchers in the Hall of Fame. Of the 7 players that would be lower on the list, 4 of them were relievers: Babe Ruth, who got into the Hall due to his bat, and then 2 other guys who played almost 100 years ago. We also have to remember who votes players in, and they have been notorious for being very old school. So DeGrom's 84 wins, which would also place him 82nd on the list, would no doubt deter voters. But perhaps the biggest thing holding him back has to be his age. He will be 37 in 2025, yet he has only played 11 seasons. This is due to him becoming a pitcher later on in his college career, therefore needing more time to develop than most prospects. On top of this, in just his 2nd minor league season, he underwent Tommy John surgery, which pushed his timeline back even further. It wasn't until his age 26 season before he made his MLB debut. By that age, most Hall of Famers had already debuted and become household names. So is there any possibility he could elevate his stock enough during the twilight years of his career to make a run at the Hall? Well, I think there's only one thing. He needs another Cy Young. Let me explain. Among the 10 other pitchers who have won the award twice, 3 were voted in, 6 were not, and Blake Snell probably won't either. Now, of the 11 pitchers who have won the award 3 or more times, 7 of them made it. Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, and Clayton Kershaw are future first ballot guys, and the only one not in, funny enough, has won the award most. But due to steroid use and his actions off the field, Roger Clemens will not be getting in anytime soon. If DeGrom can win the award award one more time, it would elevate his name away from other two-time winners who fell short, like Tim Lincecum and Johan Santana. Some might say this is impossible due to his inability to stay healthy, but there's reason to believe he has a chance. Since 2020, he has experienced a stop-and-go 5 years unlike any other player has endured. Despite this, his numbers have never taken a hit. In fact, his 2.10 ERA is the lowest among all pitchers with as many innings as him. If he is able to have one more season of at least 28 starts, a third Cy Young could be in line. It will be tricky, but a career rejuvenation like this has been done before. Look no further than Chris Sale. From 2020 till 2023, he started in just 31 games, dwindling his Hall of Fame chances. But after getting healthy this past year with the Braves, he has put together one of his best seasons of his career, which has put him in line for his first Cy Young award, as well as boost his Hall of Fame chances tremendously. In order for DeGrom to have this type of turnaround, there is one thing he could try, and that is to not throw every pitch with 100% effort. We've seen it over the past few years, a steady rise in his fastball velocity to average near 100, and his slider, which sits at 94, is the fastest among starters. There is great reason to believe these injuries he has suffered over the past few years have stemmed from the desire to throw as hard as he can. So as funny as it may sound, maybe his best option is to step off the gas pedal. It might just save his Hall of Fame career.